What's going on, everybody? My name is Jordan Nagoli, and welcome back to another episode of Find Your Edge. And wherever you are in the world watching or listening, thank you so much, because there's a lot of podcasts out there, and today you chose this one. And for that, me and the team are very grateful. On today's episode, boy, have we got something special. We are talking to the magician, Peter Morrison. Peter is a magician of over 23 years and has performed over 5,000 shows. I met Peter at his show recently, and he is also a member and performer at the Magic Castle. He's made many appearances at the famous Magic Castle in California. Peter put on an amazing performance for me and my wife and our best friend, and I'm honored to have him on the show today. Peter, welcome, sir.
So appreciate you having me on, man.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here, and thank you for making the drive and dedicating the time. So for our listeners out there, I'd like to share how we met just a few weeks ago. So I don't even think I told you the full story. My wife and I got a call from one of my best friends from childhood, and she's from New Orleans, and she was in town for a conference. And she said, "Hey guys, I've got openings on Saturday night. Are you free to hang out?" It just so happens we were. And we said, "What should we do?" And we were talking about magic. And I said, "You know what? Let's look up a magic show." I typed in.
That's so random. I love it.
That's it. That's it. I typed in Atlanta Magic. That was it. Your show came up first. You had hundreds of 5-star reviews, which as a business owner in this marketing space, I know that's not easy to do. I was like, okay, this guy's definitely, he's good. Let me look at this. I was impressed with everything else. I saw where the hotel was, where the theater was. And I was like, you know what? That's 10 minutes from where we're picking up our friend. Let's do it. We show up, we get there early, and we meet you. And before we're even really talking, you're already doing magic on us, which, man, I'm still trying to figure out how you did that trick. It was just a card trick. It was one of the simple pick a card and you guessed it. I was blown away, and I was like, oh my God, if this is not even the show, I can't wait. We do the show. You crafted this beautiful, intimate experience with 40 people where you knew their names, you knew how to engage with us, you knew where people were from. And I watched this whole performance put on. I was like, man, like this guy's got a real team. I don't see anybody else here, but they're behind the scenes doing something. This is incredible. You made an incredible performance for us. I'm still laughing about how you guessed Idaho. We'll get to that later on.
It's magic.
Magic. Yeah, it is magic. It was beautiful. And then afterwards you hung out and you talked to everyone, and we shook hands, and I just complimented you on your skills, and ironically, a weird compliment, but your hand dexterity and how strong your hands were to do all the tricks. And I just thought that you would be an amazing guest to interview, because you had talked about how you built this show and transitioned from the corporate life into who you are today. Mm-hmm. And I know, being in the creative industry, I talk to people all the time that want to make a living out of their passion. And I think that's one of the hardest things to do in society. And you've done that, and you've done that at a high level. So now we're here. So for every listener, that's how we got here. And again, welcome, Peter. Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure, man. Love it.
Yeah. So let's start with this. Give our listeners a breakdown of what does a day in the life or week in the life look like for you present day?
Depends on the week.
Yeah.
So I'm married. I've been married for 23 years. I've been with my wife for 26, and we have 2 kids. So, I mean, a lot of my day, honestly, was the wonderful thing about being self-employed is freedom of schedule. Mm. So my wife, she just actually went back to school teaching, so she's off for the day, but I'm the one driving my son to school. You know, if needed, I'm the one who can pick him up from school. Yeah. And I can pretty much do that Monday through Friday if I have to, which is great. But my day starts off, I drop him off, I go to the gym. I'm diligent, 54 years old. So, you got to take care of yourself, right?
You look great.
Thanks. And so that's, I'll start the day with that. And then there's maybe some fielding emails, business calls. You're running a business, so you got to do that. The stuff that's not the fun part, right? Yeah. The fun part's performing. But I also have a lot of hobbies. Mm. So every single day, a big part of my day is music. So I have a studio in my home, and I play guitar and I sing. And actually just auditioned for the church band, or they call it the praise team. Yeah. And that went well. So that's going to be on the horizon sometime soon. But yeah, outside of that, just making sure to also take time off work and do those family vacations and get that FaceTime while they're still in our house, Yeah. But yeah, I mean, nothing really that exhilarating, exciting as far as there's nothing magical about my day. I'm just really a normal guy who has found a talent And I found that really early in life.
Well, also share with us, because you have multiple performances a week at the Atlanta Magic Theater. So break that down for the listeners too.
Sure. We're in Atlanta Thursday, Fridays, Saturday nights. We do 8:30 on Thursdays and Fridays. Early and a late show, 6:30 and 9:30 on Saturdays, because Saturdays obviously is the moneymaker, right?
Yeah.
That's your kind of your guaranteed audience. And then I do corporate stuff all over America. So I've done, oh my gosh, I mean, probably 3,000 plus corporate engagements, from Cisco Systems to Oracle World to, this was awesome. So this guy calls me and he goes, it's my wife's 40th birthday. And this is about 2 years ago. So we're just kind of coming out of the pandemic. They're up in Utah. And he goes, I'm thinking about, having you up here for her 40th birthday. And I go, well, how many people will be there? He goes, it'll be 8 people. And I'm like, wow, okay, 8 people. And he goes, it'll be just my wife and her girlfriends. So I go, okay, well, this sounds great. So now, of course, being the salesman that I am, I ask all the important questions. So remind me what you do for a living right now. So he owns 2 companies. He's got 250 employees. And so I go, I got to aim high here, Also, I'm coming out of the pandemic. So I've been making about zero for a while now.
Yeah.
I did some virtual shows, but I said, well, yeah, this is what it would be, and of course you'd have to fly me up and it'd be all expenses paid. So it was the highest fee I've ever charged anyone, ever. I mean, and he paused, there's just silence. Let's just do it. So he flies me up to Utah. I get put up at the Montage Resort, which is in Deer Valley, which is the most expensive hotel on the planet, just about. I was like, oh, this is great. I'll bring my wife back. Off season, $1,500 a night. Peak season, $3,000 a night for a little itty bitty room. Well, he had the villa for the party, and we had staged this whole thing where he's going to tell his wife that was inspired from the magic show they saw when I was in San Francisco. That's where I used to be. I had the longest running one-man show in San Francisco history. And so I'm sitting there hiding on the back deck for the introduction. She comes in with her girlfriends. They see all these props. And she's like, what is this? He goes, well, honey, I never told you, but I've been practicing magic ever since I went to the show in San Francisco, because how much we loved it. And she's like, oh, I love the show. It was great. I could hear what they're saying.
Yeah.
And then he's like, but then I thought about it. Why not bring you the real deal? Girls all the way from Atlanta, Georgia. Here he is, magician Peter Morrison. So I walk in. Well, as it turns out, not only had the wife and he, they'd been to the show, 2 of the other ladies on vacation had seen my show in San Francisco. So here I got 3 out of the 8 that have seen me before. Warmest introduction. She's still like, is this real? This guy's here. Mm-hmm. But that was great. But I've had so many of those fun occasions where I've done these private events, and I just, I go all in because I care about the client experience. Mm-hmm. And so it was just such a special, happy moment for her because, again, it's still kind of coming out of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. People aren't having big parties. It's her 40th. And I actually, was able to add something special to that.
Wow. I love that. Do you find, kind of a tough question, but do you prefer more smaller, intimate events like that? Mm-hmm. Do you prefer the 40 that we had at the show that I was at? Do you prefer larger, or it just depends?
Yeah. So there's no one size as far as specialness. But I'll give you another example. So now I've got 150 people, and I did the global meeting for Genuine Auto Parts. They're based in Atlanta. So that event was really neat. This is not that long ago. This is maybe a year ago. So this is up in North Georgia. And you noticed when you came to my show, right? Remembering people's names, knowing what they mm-hmm. do, but also really on the fly being able to identify people and their personalities. So there was one lady in the audience. She was right in the middle, and I just, for whatever reason, she was like a beacon to me, and it really focused on her. And I started talking to her, and then I included her in the show. And so here we got, again, went from 8 people to now we're at 150. Mm-hmm. But it felt very inclusive, right? So everyone's still part of it. And so that's my job to kind of bring that, in every show. So it doesn't matter. I make that 150 feel as intimate as 8.
Yeah.
And then after that show, that was really neat because the CEO comes up, like 25 years there, and he goes, listen, show was great. We all enjoyed it. He goes, but what we really loved is how you picked that woman out of the audience. He goes, you have no idea. Her nephew had just been killed in a car accident that week. She wasn't going to even come here tonight. He goes, but you identified her and you included her. And for that 75-minute performance, she was able to forget about the tragedy. And she came up in tears apparently after and talked to them and said, I so needed. I needed this. So, it's why I do what I do. It's why I left the corporate world, to bring joy to people. Because everyone has their story in their life, what's going on, whether it's, they're having a hard time making their mortgage payment, or, the wife is sick, or dog dies, you never know. But you can take that moment to make people just enjoy, have a breather from life,
Yeah. I think you understand people very well to a point where another person may not even perceive how well you perceive their energy and their personality.
Yeah.
I noticed that when I just watched you the whole time. Like, in addition to the crowds, I was just mesmerized by the show that you put on. I think it's part of you have decades of experience for sure, but what else sticks out to you with people on why you choose them?
Yeah, well, now this skill definitely was learned way before I became a full-time magician.
Mm-hmm.
So would you like to know a little bit more background that kind of led to that?
Yeah. Let's jump in. Well, yeah, we can go either way.
So my background prior to magic, corporate sales. But in my corporate sales job, my job was to be a member of the Chamber of Commerce, be a member of every association, go into businesses not knowing people. So, it's called mirroring, right? You meet a person, let's say they're analytical. Well, now you're more analytically driven in your engagement. Mm-hmm. Someone who's the happy jovial, you're going to be more happy and jovial in that engagement. So I did the corporate thing, but I also was with Nordstrom for years. And so I was I was a customer service all-star of the San Francisco downtown location, which is a big deal actually, because I have 1,200 employees. They picked me as the #1 customer service guy. Well, that you can't fake that.
Yeah.
And so I care about that experience. And so the only way you can really provide that is by understanding people, because there's not one experience that goes for everyone. People want a tailored experience. Mm-hmm. And so I've just made a practice of I don't really think about it now. It's just kind of natural, but just over all the years, identifying people's personalities. And if you got the guy in the front row who's, you call him out on it in the nicest of ways, because now they can relax.
Yeah.
Because for a lot of folks, it's like, okay, I wasn't going to, my wife wanted to come to the magic show. I'm an engineer. I had a guy.
It happened at our show.
Yeah. Was that the one? There was a guy. Yeah. It was hysterical. His wife goes, oh yeah, the entire time driving here.
Yeah.
He goes, I'm going to figure out all this.
He was the engineer. It was hilarious.
Yeah. I'm going to figure out all of his tricks. That's right. That's right.
It was.
And I'm like, how did that work out for you? You got nothing, he's like.
And it kept getting worse because the tricks just kept getting better and kept confusing him more.
Exactly.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, I think that's really cool because I think a lot of times, and one of the reasons that I love doing this show is we perceive people at face value and we automatically assume, and some people are born with gifts, there's no doubt about it. And some people are naturally talented. But a lot of times people don't realize that another job, another industry will give you skills that will translate somewhere else. And it's
absolutely.
about skill stacking. I look at life like a video game, and you add skills when you're younger and as you get older. So that makes a lot of sense about your background. Speaking on that, let's go all the way back in time. Let's start kind of at the beginning. Tell me about where you were from, where you were born, and about your upbringing and family.
Sure. So I was actually born in San Francisco, almost on the Bay Bridge. Apparently my mom said it was like literally like mad dash, like dad's at work, calls her friend. I think it was Rose Bloom was her last name. And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm having a baby right now. And, gets to the hospital, and the like nurse, I'm having a baby. She's like, no, calm down, and she was like, oh my God, you're having a baby. So I was born in like, 10 seconds, So then we grew up in Montclair, Oakland. And then the choice had to be made, like, are we going to stay in the public school system? Are we going to go in the private school system? Because if I had stayed in Oakland, I would have gone to a pretty like hardcore high school, like metal detectors and, not the most friendly environment, with real danger.
Yeah.
So we move a little further east out to Lafayette, California. And Lafayette is, your classic American suburb. Probably at least at the time, it's way back, right? We're talking, Ronald Reagan era, I'm an old guy, right? And so it was a nice place to grow up. It was very safe, very, kind of high net worth individuals. So the schools there were well funded and all that good stuff. So my dad, though, was an entrepreneur. His dad was a big time guy in the oil industry, but he died when my dad was like 2.5 or 3. So my father never had that role model, but what he had was that you can do anything. And so my dad was a money management guy and always said, listen, you can do whatever you want to do in life, right? So I was given that confidence, I think, early on that there's really no barrier except for yourself, right? Just if you want to work hard, you can do anything. So I was given that confidence. But so I went to high school there and then went to school at the University of Colorado in Boulder and studied psychology. That kind of worked out,
I'm piecing it together, Peter.
But that whole journey, my early part of my life was challenging in many ways for me because I was definitely a big party guy, and that got in the way of relationships and life and things like that. It was a barrier that I overcame many, many, many years ago, but that was a big interference in my life, and I did a whole turnabout, and it was actually really after I got married.
Wow.
Then I made that turnabout. You wouldn't even recognize me. You wouldn't believe it if I told you, but I was like 265 pounds. Yeah, I know, right? Take that in for a second. Yeah, right. And I lost 85 pounds and kept it off ever since, and just went all in. But go ahead.
No, I was going to say, the point of the show is to dive deep and really understand people. Because again, the reason why I did the show is what I see today is this professional, experienced businessman that puts on an amazing show. And there's a lot of people listening, teenagers, young adults that could be struggling or maybe aren't in the place in their life that they want to be.
Yeah.
And they see people like yourself and they're like, I could never do that. I don't have it in them. But you just told me you're another Peter.
A whole different person.
So tell me, what was childhood and teenage years like? What were you into? And you said you got into a lot of partying. Kind of when did that start? And what was...
You'd be shocked.
Try me.
So I mean, grammar school.
Hit me with it, Peter. This is the real deal.
Yeah, grammar school, middle school, high school, college. I was sneaking out middle school. So my parents were always like, "Why are you getting bad grades?" It's like 'cause I'm not present.
Yeah.
I was just not punched in.
Yeah.
They were called like latchkey parents, which means they're never home. My parents in their wisdom were like, senior year in high school, we're going to go on a 6-month trip and leave you at the house by yourself.
Totally
I'm like,
normal.
right on.
Do you have any siblings?
Older brother, yeah. Yeah, he was good security.
Yeah, no, I say I'm not too shocked because I got into quite a bit of partying myself with my brothers. And it led to me getting expelled from my high school for drinking. So,
yeah.
But that changed my life forever for the better and kind of turned things around. So,
yeah. Well, there's a difference. there's people who have who are partiers and people who had a problem. I had a problem.
You had a problem.
Yeah, I had a serious drinking problem. So, yeah, but it's been 17 years now that I've got that under wraps.
Congratulations.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
I'd be dead. Honestly, I think if I hadn't.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, takes what it takes. But yeah, I think I just got to a point where I realized that it was going to be more than an inconvenience. It was going to be more, forget the reputation, forget the relationships. I go, this is going to a dark place, which means death, and I finally realized that. And I mean, the only way I could come out of this wasn't from power that I had, but it was through my God relationship, and that has been the keystone of my life, which has evolved over time. And give me reliance to do everything I've done, whether it be performing or relationships, all that good stuff.
How old were you when you discovered magic? And tell me how you got into it.
So my parents hired a magician as their babysitter, and this babysitter's name was Gabriel. And Gabriel, I think it was 5 or 6. I forget exactly what it was. I mean, it's a while ago, right? But he would come over and bring these amazing illusions over, and I was just intrigued. I'm like, this is amazing. So I actually took it like seriously. I like practice all the time, and I've got these great little pictures. They look like Norman Rockwell's. I'm in the backyard, and I've got the kids there, and the 5-cent admission kind of thing, going on. And then I had I was auctioned off, and I think it would have been maybe 5th grade at an school auction to do like a magic show at someone's house. And so I became very involved, but then I took a long break from, we'll call it 13 to actually when I met my wife. And then she was a church leader in a youth group. And she goes, oh, didn't you like do magic? Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't the kids enjoy, seeing some tricks? And I'm like, you know what? That'd be great.
Around what age is this?
So this was 26 years ago. So, let's do the math here. I guess I'm like 32.
Yeah.
And so I went down and did a couple of things, and it was like a light switch. I go, oh my God, that's right. I love magic. Watching the reactions. And it was the weirdest thing, man. I mean, I went from not doing it at all at that point in my life to like all in. Wow. Like all I would do was like practice early in the morning, clients throughout the day. It was an obsession. I mean, I was like, I want to get good at this, and I love doing this for people. And even got to the point where my boss at the time, I mean, this is corporate America.
Yeah.
And we'd be on a sales call and he'd be like, hey dude, it's time to bring out the trick. You gotta like win the sale for us. Like, you gotta do something, So I would do like some kind of a magic trick, and, and of course, like you said earlier, reading people, right? So, I know who the audience is. And so I usually in that rapport building stage would ask them, like, so what do you do? You're like, oh, I fish or go to baseball or whatever. Yeah, I do some magic,
Yeah.
And I kind of get the read. And if they're like, oh, really? Yeah, like, I'm like, yeah. So then I bring it full circle, and I knew it would be a warm audience for doing magic. But that's where I started getting my chops too, because now you're performing all the time. Because, no one like just picks up a skill at home. You have to be out doing it. And then that became working like restaurants for years, where I three nights a week, going out for 3 hours a night, table to table, just performing. And then people, of course, like, wow, like you're really good at this. Like, why are you here at the restaurant? And I'm like,
oh no,
and you're like, well, I'm here to get really good at it.
Yeah, I got to practice.
Well, and you're marketing, so they see it, you're handing out a business card. So, I mean, I didn't quit the corporate job and have a show lined up, like my own show. This was that I'm just going to make this happen. And I mean, gosh, I think first couple of years, I was probably turning out like 325 shows a year, private. All magicians start like doing birthday parties. This is what it is.
Yep.
And then it was like the adults coming up afterwards like, hey, do you do corporate stuff too? And then I had to draw a line in the sand and finally just say, listen, I will not do children's shows anymore. Yeah. Just so people are clear what they were getting. Because otherwise, you don't, if you're associated as a child magician, you're not going to necessarily, in their mind at least, be a good fit for the corporate world.
But I love hearing this, because when I reflect on my own life, there are key points that I think back and think those skills have helped me tremendously today. And the two are serving tables at California Pizza Kitchen.
Yep.
And hosting trivia 2 to 4 nights a week as a trivia host at bars.
Oh, yeah.
For a year. And that was one of the hardest jobs that I ever had. But it sounds like for you, You had servant experience at Jack in the Box and McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
You had retail and sales experience at the mall, which is not easy. And you're interacting with people all day.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense how you're gaining people skills. And you clearly already had that to begin with. So tell me about college and school. So you graduate high school.
Yeah.
What were the plans for college?
So again, because of my background, I was not an A student. So I did the junior college thing. For quite a while, actually. I was at junior college for like 4 years because I was doing working the whole time. So it was very part-time junior college, working full-time. I think I don't think I still was at home at that point. Hadn't had my own apartment yet. And then I got accepted to University of Colorado psychology. So I'd go out there, and that was a great place. I mean, Colorado was fun, man. I mean, it was it's a great town. Boulder's beautiful. And then while I was there, I got the bright idea to become it's called a hasher. And a hasher is the guy who works at the sorority house who serves the girls their meals.
What?
Yeah.
I've never even heard of this.
Great job, by the way. Everyone should have it. So so this is great. So you have to get dressed up, right? Tie required, right? So I'm working at the Alpha Phi house, serving these 150 Alpha Phi girls. And this was actually a really highlight of my college career. It really was. So I'm there, and the girls come up to me and go, "Hey, Paige wants to meet you." And I go, "Well, who's Paige?" And they're like, "Paige is the president of the sorority house, and she would like to make an introduction, but before she's willing to, maybe meet you, go on a date, we have to interview you." Now, I'm kind of an old-fashioned guy, so I'm like, this is great. I go, "You want to interview me?" I go, "Wonderful, let's do it." I know I interview well, right? I'm like, this is great. So they do a full-on, like 4 sorority sisters, and they're breaking it down for this interview. And I guess I passed with flying colors. So now I've been approved now to, date the president of the sorority.
Yeah.
And so I forget if it was in person or it was a phone call, but I called her up and said, "Well, I'll plan something." She goes, "What are we going to do?" I said, "I'll plan something." So again, good at reading people. I knew a little bit about Paige based on the interview. So I got opening tickets to the Symphony in Denver as our first date.
Wow.
Home run.
Wow, Peter, I'm impressed.
And that was fun because Paige was the homecoming queen of Boulder and had also been Miss Colorado. So it really made a fun college experience. A little notch on the belt. Dad was proud of me.
Yeah.
But I studied psychology, and I loved studying the arts in college. Mm-hmm. Definitely a school that had a lot of team spirit because it was they were the national champs in football at the time. Mm-hmm. So it was just a great experience going to school there. Lots of great music. I love music, and so it was just a full round, well-rounded college experience.
That's good. So you had a lot of different jobs and experience in college. You went to school for psychology. Did you want to be a therapist? What did you want to be?
Yeah, I did actually. That was kind of the initial thing. I'm like, you know what? I'm good with people, all this stuff. But honestly, I started thinking about it, and I'm like, man, do I want to be, what a depressing job. I mean, that's the way I looked at it. I know it's helpful, mm-hmm. but having your day in, day out dealing with people's problems, I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. Like, I don't know if that's really what I want to do. I knew already because I'd done the sales, retail sales. I'm like, that's what I think I want to do. I want to sell. Didn't know what it was yet. Yeah. But I knew that would be something I'd want to do. And by the way, at Boulder, I did never finish. I was getting older now, right? 4 years of junior college, went to Boulder, and I go, okay, what I'll do is do correspondence. It'll be great. No problem. I got a semester and a half left. I'll go home.
Yeah.
But, once I got working again, I was like, it just never happened. And I was just too busy. I was exhausted from work. I'm like, do I want to study now? I was never a scholastic person.
Yeah.
I mean, I did well in a lot of classes, but it was just not my, I didn't love doing it. So I just started working instead.
Wow. So you never got the degree?
Never got the degree.
I relate to you on that front. Me neither. A few months of college and didn't go back.
Yeah.
So, wow.
But the job that I got at ADP, that's where I worked in corporate sales.
Yeah.
I think I might be the only person in the history of the company to be hired who did not have a college degree.
I'm sure of it.
It was
especially at that time.
It was a requirement.
Yeah.
But I convinced them two things: that it didn't matter, but also that at some point I might finish that college degree. And they took it, and
on their dime. Yeah.
I worked there for 5 years. So,
wow. Okay, so you were at Nordstrom for 7 years.
Roughly, yeah.
Roughly 7 years. Did you go from there to ADP?
Waited tables.
Waited tables.
Yeah, Chili's.
Nice.
And also then more fine dining as well. So I did both those, and then at the last place, which was the Fault Line Brewing Company, which is kind of like a Gordon Biersch kind of place, really like high end, nice, full service dining. That's when I started interviewing at ADP, which was a grueling process. It was like 8 weeks of interviews.
Oh my gosh.
I remember the opening interview, the lady said, "So I don't think you can be successful here. I don't think I'm going to hire you." That was the opening statement of our interview that lasted like 2 hours. It was brutal. I was like, all right, game on, here we go. Time
That's
to
probably
prove.
a challenge to you though.
Yeah, no, I didn't look at it that way. I mean, I don't never let them see a sweat, man. I just kind of stuck out that interview, and she was never really wanting to hire me, but thankfully her boss, which was above her, did, because she was a sales exec, but the VP was like, loved me. And so, at our last interview with him, he goes, "What do you think I'm going to tell her?" I said, "You're going to tell her that you think Peter Morrison's an upstanding person and a hell of a salesperson, and he should be hired immediately." And he goes, "That's exactly what I'm going to tell her."
And how old were you at that time?
So I would have been, let's see, probably 27-ish, I'm guessing, somewhere in that ballpark. Yeah, because he 27. Yeah, 27, 28, roughly, somewhere in that ballpark, give or take.
Yeah. And so this was, what were you doing? What was your job responsibilities then?
So the title is District Manager of Sales. So you're given a district, a series of zip codes, and they go get them. And you had I had to sell 136 new deals a year. New deals a year. That's a lot.
What kind of deals?
New business. So ADP is the largest payroll provider in the world. So it'd be like, I come walking in your door, knock, knock, knock. "Hey, I'm Peter Morrison, District Manager of Sales from ADP. Who do you guys use for payroll?"
Yeah.
And you'd be like, "We don't want to talk to you." So it was just that consistency. Because for every person you approached, I mean, my God, it was probably 1 in 20 that would lead to a meeting. And then out of the 10 meetings that you have, one goes to business. So it's a huge rejection rate, rejection rate, but you're always working that pipeline. And so what would typically happen is, okay, so-and-so company messed up. We're now interested in talking to you again. And now you had to come in and close the business, because the value proposition wasn't great. I mean, we can save you $5 a month. I mean, literally. So you had to build a lot more, realistic reasons why they would change. We can save you time. We can make you more efficient. We're more reliable. Our checks are more secure. You had to really build that business. And their training was amazing. I mean, it was like a year and a half of ongoing training. So it's like, in my brain still, situation, impact, commitment, feature, advantage, benefit. If I could make it a way where you'd never miss your kid's baseball game again, would that be a value, Bob? And so, yes, it would be wonderful. I could promise, so it was a great model.
Yeah. And they taught you a lot. So so this is, I think, where the shift happened. So did you meet your wife while working at ADP?
No, I actually met her waiting tables.
Okay.
It's a great story, by the way.
Let's hear it.
It's a great story. I mean, it really is. So it's so cool so I had been praying to meet a Christian woman because I hadn't had any really fulfilling relationships up to that point. I mean, I had some, obviously, hey, Paige wasn't too shabby, right? But I didn't have any really fulfilling relationships. And so, funny enough, my wife, she had been dating the same guy for 5 years, but wasn't sold. She had been praying over a list of what she wanted to find in a man. Well, lo and behold, I was everything on the list. So I met her at a family function. My wife was on the national synchronized swimming team. My cousin was the Olympic coach. And it's a family party. And I saw her and I'm like, Boom, went over to talk to her. Well, her boyfriend was there bragging about his new job. So he's off telling everybody else, leaving his poor girlfriend alone. so I came in and my wife hates the joke. I always say, yeah, and I made her boyfriend disappear. But you know, the reality is kind of what happened because I asked her out and she was like, do you have a boyfriend? Well, I knew she did because my aunt had already told me.
Yeah.
And she's like, so I can't go out with you. And, you know, so my salesmanship 101 kicked in and I'm like, okay, well, listen, you're gonna have to keep me posted on the boyfriend because, you know, I'd like to get to know you better. So I get her number from, she wouldn't give me the number. I get the number from my aunt and I call her up. It's Peter Morrison, you know. Oh, I thought I told you I can't go out. I said, I understand. I said, I feel compelled though. I want to get to meet you, get to know you better. And I said, so yeah. She said, well, I'm leaving to go train at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado. I can't go out with you. I'm leaving in a week. Oh, if you're leaving in a week, then we'll go out Tuesday. It'll be great. I'll pick you up on my motorcycle. You know, just a friendly little date. We'll go up to Napa Valley, you know. So we get up to Napa, go on the state, and come back. And at the time I was working not in retail, not in sales. That's right. It was a transitional job. I was working at a school, working with the youth at the school in like a kind of a, not a daycare program, but it was like a after school, before school program. So I'm showing her all these pictures of me working with the children, you know, and total schmoozer, man. I mean, I can't help it. But so we went on one date and she basically broke up with him a couple days later. That was it. Because when I met her, I knew I was going to marry her. I told my best friend that night, he goes, you're out of your mind. You just met the girl. I said, it doesn't matter. I know. And I was right.
Peter, you dog. Oh my goodness. I love it. How did you know? How did you know you were going to meet her or marry her?
Well, I think that for me, my God relationship has given me great discernment. So like all that discernment you've talked about earlier, reading people, I don't give myself all that credit. I find for me is my experience, but the closer that relationship is with me, the better my discernment is. So call it a God-given gift. I mean, that's why I look at it, you know, so it's very interesting how that has worked out, but that's where I think it comes from.
Wow. So you guys meet and she breaks up with her boyfriend. You both start dating.
Yep.
And then keep walking me through this because you mentioned earlier, and it's all going to circle back to getting back into magic.
Yeah. So right out the gate, I mean, I'm doing magic for the church, right? So we start dating. She's like, I work at this church, which turned out it was the church that my grandmother had gone to. It also turned out she had helped my grandmother 5 years before we met.
Wow. Okay. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it is crazy. And it gets even more crazy later because she, on her first year of being married, she busts out all these linens. And I'm like, we can't afford these things. And she's like, oh, well, your aunt gave them to me 5 years before we met. They're your grandmother's.
What?
Yeah.
That sounds like it was meant to be. Yeah.
Well, it was meant to be, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no reservation about that. But so, I mean, bottom line, I started doing tricks for the kids, and my wife thought it was really cool. You know, she actually was a little spoofed, like, ooh, magic. You know, because she came from like a Southern Baptist upbringing, and magic was kind of like a bad thing.
Yep.
And that was definitely, I did not get a warm reception from her family about being a trickster. But it just started evolving, and so I started doing shows, and so this whole time now I'm at ADP. So I meet her. That's when I get the job at ADP.
Got it. So you're working there.
So that 3 years before we got married was ADP.
Okay.
And then basically about 2 years into the marriage, that's when it was maybe even less than that. Maybe a year into the marriage when I quit ADP. Did one more transitional job, Kinko sales, outside sales, and then went from there and just made a decision. And you know what it was? So we're on a cruise ship on September 11th. So we watched the buildings coming down, and we're on a cruise ship, and it was like watching a movie. I go, oh, come on. What, this is a terrible movie. You know, I'm like, this is tragic. And it's like, no, this is actually happening. This is like, it was like real time. And everyone was silent, you know, was watching the screen. And I'm like, oh my God, we've been attacked, you know? So then later that same day, on the cruise, we get hit by a rogue wave on a cruise ship. It was the craziest thing. We're on a glass elevator, and all of a sudden the elevator starts tilting. And I'm like, what's wrong with the elevator? And we get off the elevator, and it's like, it's like slow motion. The boat is listing over, and people are screaming, and glasses are breaking, and people are grabbing the rails, And my wife, being the Southern Baptist that she is, she's like, in the name of Jesus,
Revelations is here.
And I mean, I tell you, that just made me, I was like, oh, we're all going to die. This is it.
God.
So it was that next day I have the revelation. I go, you know what? I think I'm going to quit my day job. I think that life's too short. I love performing. I love everything about it. This is what I want to do. So obviously ran by my wife, and she's like, well, honey, so-and-so and so-and-so, they've been able, do it successfully. You got the skills on all these levels, right? Salesmanship and all these things, and you've got a talent. You should do it. You should quit your day job. And it was shortly thereafter. It was probably, so it would have been September 11th, and it was early October that I resigned from that day job and decided to just go for it with no prospects on the horizon.
Yeah.
I wasn't like I was doing a bunch of shows. I was doing, a couple a month. It was not a big thing, but I was all in,
Yeah. But to remind everybody, for the past few, like the years leading up to that, you were actively practicing. You were actively performing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You don't just quit your day job and say, I'm going to be a magician. No, I mean, I had been back into it now for, we'll call it 5 years. And I used to practice 8 hours a day. I was like committed, I'm like, cause I'm always been long game in life in general, whether it be playing guitar, singing, magic, school, whatever it is, that I knew that if I kept working at like this one card trick, like you mentioned in the beginning, is the one where it's signed and appears in my wallet. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is ridiculous, right? There's nothing to see, but that took me 5 years to learn the trick. Because I knew the end result would be a miracle.
It really was.
Right? Where there's no explanation.
Yeah.
And I can repeat it over and over again for people, and there's nothing to see. I mean, it's just technically as close to flawless as you get. You'll never be perfect, but getting close. Yeah, left there. Yeah. Yep. Started, then a transitional job was with Kinko's. I actually saw an opportunity with that. Because I'm at this point, I'm like, magic. I wanted to make this a career.
So you had it in your head for a little while. You're like, okay, I got to get out of this.
I want to get out of this. So the cruise didn't happen during ADP. That was our already where I'm at Kinko's. And it was during the heyday of sales. So I had signed I got a signing bonus, guaranteed commission. So I was able to kind of start socking a little money away with the goal that I'll fulfill my year obligation and then quit. And really what did it though, I mean, my boss, it was like, sat me down and goes, listen, this is probably would have been before the cruise. He goes, so you're at like 99% of your quota, not good enough. And so I'm going to put you on written warning. You have 3 weeks to turn your number around or you're fired. And this is not an exaggeration. This is the way the corporate sales world works. There's no 99%. It's 100% or better, period. Right? Because the problem is it's pecking order, right? So he has to give his boss projections. Well, if they're not accurate, then his job's in jeopardy, and then his boss, it just goes up the ladder. So I got lucky and I got a bunch of business that came in, and now I'm 122% of my annual number. And oh my, Peter, you're the best.
They love you again. Yeah,
they love me again. And I sat him down. I called him up, so let's have lunch. He goes, oh, whatever you want, man. It's on me. And I said, Matt, you really showed me how expendable I am. And I said, I've made a decision. I would like to pursue magic as a full-time career. And his response was actually like, he goes, you know what, man? If anyone else said that to me, I'd be like, you are out of your mind. He goes, but I know you love it. And my wife's an artist, and I can identify with that. And, you'll probably be successful at it. And that first year I was doing magic full time, he called me with 3 job offers, upping the number every time. where my base was about 38 or 35 with commission structure. You're making close to six figures. That base number went all the way up to, I think it was like 55,000 by his last offer. And I still turned him down.
Wow.
Because I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go down this road, man. I'm gonna do everything I can do to be successful at this, because it's what I love doing.
Wow. And you had the temptation of money, of
the easy road.
The easy road.
Guaranteed. No, I mean, great company. Funny thing is, though, about maybe 8 months after I quit the day job, that entire division vanished. And then they were bought by FedEx. And so all the commercial sales that Kinko's used to do, they don't do any of that anymore.
Yeah.
It doesn't even exist. So the job would have been gone anyway.
Mm-hmm. So not knowing, but you had the foresight to leave. And
I had no idea that was going to happen, but yeah.
Just coincidental.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't believe in coincidence.
No.
I don't. Yeah.
So now we're at the point where you quit the day job. And what was your plan when you quit? Like, this is what I'm going to do. What was that?
Make a pile of money. No, I'm kidding. No, my plan was simple. It was just to market myself to my best of my abilities, to continue with the practice, right? Now I've got a lot of free time. So up my game on practice. And, I decided this is just, if you're going to do this, do it excellent, be as excellent as you can. And I always knew that, in life, if you do something really well, eventually, the money part might follow, right? That it probably will work out financially. So we got up to now the 2008 recession, and things are finally going great, and then the world collapses.
Oh my God.
So 60% of the corporate market bookings just vanished.
Yeah.
Because it's a bottom line number. So they're like, well, sorry, but there's no chicken dinner this year, and there's certainly not a magician, right? Because all the entertainment just kind of went away. Mm-hmm. And so I kept this kind of plugging away, and then I decided, well, I got to offset my income. So part of my story is getting in shape and things, right? So I go down to the local gym where I went. Worked out all the time. And I walk in to the general manager's office, knock, 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 and I go, hey, this is an odd question. I go, but, I work out here. I don't think we've ever met. I see you all the time, but, I have a extensive corporate sales background, and I'm just wondering if you're looking for anyone to work in sales and membership. And he's like, okay. He's like, this is kind of crazy. He goes, I just let go of the girl like moments ago. I'm looking for someone. Do you have time to have an interview right now? Again, I don't believe in coincidence.
Yeah.
And so I sit down with this guy, hires me on the spot. So that helped offset the income.
Yeah.
Now I've got at least a paycheck coming in, got some benefits coming in. And it was great too, because, you get people come in the gym and they're like, well, look at you. You're lucky. You're just a slim person. Like, you're in amazing shape, right?
Yeah.
You were born this way. I go, really? I go, well, let me show you something. And so I had a before and after. Mm-hmm. And they're like, I sold a lot of memberships that way, because they're like, what? Actually, it was such a popular before and after that I was like on the wall, like at the gym.
Wow.
Because they're trying to get people to be encouraged.
Yeah.
And so it was a great sales technique. And, also, I think people, if they can't visualize it, it's hard to see themselves. If they just see that skinny blonde and go, well, she's always been pretty like that.
Yeah.
It's like, no, actually, Susie used to be a big girl.
Yeah.
They don't see it that way. So I worked there, and then I was doing a show. I had a call to do a party for a girl's, I believe it was her 30th or 40th birthday at a Moroccan restaurant. She goes, I want to rent the whole restaurant. I've always dreamed as a child, I never had a magic show, but I really want to have a magician. And I go, wow, okay. So, do you have a budget in mind? And we're talking, and I think I quoted her at the time. It was like $1,500 to come in and do a magic show for her birthday. And she's like, oh my gosh, there's no way I can afford that. It's way beyond my reach. And I said, well, what could you afford? She goes, well, I could afford like $750. I said, okay. Tell you what, you know what? I would love to do it because I like your story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've always dreamed of this, and I'd like to help make that dream come true. Well, the crazy thing is, so the Moroccan restaurant where it's at, my wife, after she quit her synchronized swimming, got involved with belly dancing. So I knew the owner of the restaurant. So I'm there doing my magic show, and it was like a tent, like really traditional Moroccan place. I'd been there many, many times. And his nephew's there. And I go, hey man, could you help me? Could you run my spotlight? And he's like, oh, Peter, no problem, I'll run your spotlight. Very mysterious kind of character. So he's running the spotlight for me, and show's over, and he goes, we need to talk. I go, what's going on? He goes, well, my uncle's been talking about you forever, that I should do business with you. He goes, we own a place in San Francisco, and right next to our restaurant, we have I remember he goes, it's a very spooky place. It's like, what it was a speakeasy. Mm. And they used it as a hookah den. He goes, but I could see this becoming something that would work, like a magic show. So now, and I've been thinking about having my own show now after I did the Magic Castle, I was like, I think I could really do something with this, having my own show. So I go to San Francisco to meet him. I remember I am on pins and needles, man. This is like, it's the moment, right? Mm-hmm. This is your moment. You've been working your butt off forever. Here's a real opportunity. He's serious. I remember I went next door. I got there 3 hours early. I remember I went in and got a manicure, which I don't normally do before the meeting because I want to have this perfect presentation. And so I show up, and he unlocks his like golden gate that was the entrance, and he goes, let me show you your magic theater. And I can hold it together now, man. I've told the story a lot of times. I'll break down in tears because I'm like, it was a dream fulfilled. So we talk about it and what that looks like and what the split will be. And so I had never done this, right? I've never had my own show. I've done lots of shows now, but I haven't had my own show. So how do you market the show, right? How do you sell tickets? What ticketing company do you use? Yeah. What do your posters and promotional materials look like? So we go to do this. We start off, and before I open, I'm at there's like magic club meetings that they have. And there's a guy that was a very well-respected magician, and I told him what I was going to do, and he goes, well, I've got a guy. I've got the guy, man. I've got the guy who's the branding guy. He's a marketing genius. This guy, Brad Chin. And I go, I want to meet him. He goes, well, come to the lecture tonight. I'm lecturing, and Brad will be there. So I'm there, and he goes, he's over there. There's Brad Chin. I'm like, where? He goes, no, right there. I'm like, where? I don't see. I'm thinking, in my mind, I'm thinking polished marketing guy. So Brad's sitting there. He's got dark glasses on. He's Japanese, Asian, 6'4", fully gothed out, basically, black fingernails. And he's a young guy. And I go, he's like, that's the guy. I go, okay. So I go to talk to Brad. Immediately, I'm like, this guy, he is special. He is a genius. Mm. A genius, as I found out later. IQ is better than Einstein's. He's just crazy smart. So he listens to what I want to do. And he goes, normally, I wouldn't necessarily work with someone like you. I'm kind of basically above your pay grade. Yeah. He goes, but I really like your concept, and I think this could work out. So I'll create your brochure, your business card, your poster. And so we found, and we're still together, friends, very much friends, more than business now. So I start with a good branding. Mm-hmm. If you're going to sell anything, you got to have a good brand. So critical. And you got to know who you are. Yeah. So you know what you're selling. Mm-hmm. So I start off the show, and I used to drive. It was a 72-mile drive to San Francisco. Bay Area traffic is no joke. We're talking 2.5 hours in, 2.5 hours out. So I would drive to arrive at Union Square by 9:30, 10 a.m. And I would stand there promoting my show from 10 a.m. till 6 p.m. every day for basically the first year, trying to sell tickets to my show. And there was a little box office there.
What year is this?
This was in 2010.
2010. Okay.
Would have been end of 2009, rolling into 2010.
So social media had just
Oh, it
started.
was not even a part of it. Not even a part of it. Yeah, non-existent. And I remember this about maybe 8 months into the show, and this guy had come, and he's like, he was from overseas. I think he was from like Switzerland. He goes, are you on TripAdvisor? And I go, what is TripAdvisor? He goes, oh, well, TripAdvisor is this place that Europeans and other people use to plan their trips. And they shows all the activities in any city. He goes, you need to be on TripAdvisor. So I go on TripAdvisor. Turned out actually I already had some reviews there. Claimed my listing. Added the photos. Dressed it up. And one year later, I guess roughly, out of 3,562 things to do in San Francisco, I was ranked number 1 on TripAdvisor, outranking the Golden Gate Bridge and Alcatraz as the number 1 thing to do in the city.
Wow.
So I went from being eking along to all of a sudden, I'm busy.
Yeah.
And also along the journey too, I had to make a decision to pull the plug on doing private corporate stuff. I go, I got to be laser focused on this. I've been given this one in a million life changing opportunity. I got to make it work. So I go all in, and then it went from, literally the first year, I think our revenue was probably, I'm spitballing, probably 50 to 60 grand, maybe at the very most. And at year 3, I was at like $500,000 a year in ticket sales. So we've blown up. And now Yelp, which is based in San Francisco, is also becoming a huge part of that equation. Google, all review-based leads. All lead generation was that. The hotels were worthless. Concierge, they're order takers in my experience. So, and that's why they don't exist anymore, right? All the hotels, you're not going to find a hotel concierge unless you're at the Ritz-Carlton, because they realize that people have their phone. They can do their research. They're going to plan their own lives, So it's all review driven from basically 3 or 4 different sites at the most. I go on a vacation to Hawaii. I'm having a relaxing trip. And I'm like, this is great. We've earned this. We're there for 3 weeks. Best trip I've ever had. And on week 2, I'm looking at my reviews. I checked them all the time. And I'm like, where am I? I'm not number 1. I'm not number 2. I'm not number 3. I'm not even on, I'm not on page 1. Wait a minute. Page 2, page 3. I went from number 1 to number 58 because they changed the algorithm. So now it was all subcategories. So now I have to go through the battle of proving that I could fall under comedy clubs, because under comedy clubs, you fall under nightlife. So after a lengthy battle going back and forth, emails and everything else, I finally figured out a way. I got lucky. I got the right person on the phone. There were actually people to talk to back then. And they go, you know what? This makes sense. You do a lot of comedy in your show.
Yeah.
We changed all the wording on the website too. Comedy and magic, comedy
Which is
show.
still there today. Yeah.
Which is a big part of my show, right?
Yeah.
So they endorsed that category. So now I'm the number 1 rated nightlife activity in San Francisco out of 300 plus things. 58 on the big list. And Yelp now has taken over. So now Yelp, I've got 1,200 Yelp reviews. I'm like an anomaly on Yelp. Like, you don't have a bad review. I got investigated by Yelp. They're like, how's that even possible? And then they came to the show and they go, we apologize. We get it. Your show's great. He goes, but you're the most personable person we've ever met. Like, you greet your audience. You seat your audience. You talk with your audience after the show. You remember their names. That's why they feel compelled to want to share with their friends. They're like, because, you can't fake that. I actually care, and so they saw that. So that took our number. The first year TripAdvisor dumped us down. It was about $150,000 hit. It was a huge drop. By the time I left, which was 2016, we had kind of climb back up. We were getting close to that peak sales again. Very close, actually.
Yeah.
And then I decided to walk away from the whole thing.
Yeah. Before we talk about walking away, tell me about the show itself, and actually a little bit more. Let's give the audience a little bit better understanding of the categories of magic, because for people that haven't seen your show or don't have a ton of experience in magic, they may not understand.
Which is the majority.
Yeah,
It really is the majority. We have a point of reference. Like, I've been to the birthday party. I saw the magic show on the cruise ship.
Yeah.
Are you a magician? Are you an illusionist? Are you a mentalist?
Mm-hmm.
And I would say I'm all those things, right? And that's why my introduction says Master Magician Peter Morrison, right?
Yeah.
So I love the history of magic. It's very kind of quirky and fun. Again, I don't look like a magician normally, like you would, as far as what you would think of as a magician. Yeah. But my whole style, back to talking about branding, I know my character is. I'm a classic guy. This is who I am. Mm-hmm. Always dressed this way. Always will dress this way. I'm a prepster. Retail helped me, right? All those years of that. But the show is very classic. So classical magic is more skill-based. So there's much more practice required. Then, you could have, I could be there with an iPad doing tricks, right? Mm-hmm. I don't do any of that. To me, that's not really magical.
I agree.
It's a puzzle. Like, people are thinking, what tech does he have that I don't have? Mm-hmm. But when you're holding, we'll just go back to your, by the way, I never call them tricks, right? The card miracle that I showed you, right? It's like, I'm an intelligent person. It's a brightly lit area. He's got a card that's signed. He keeps putting it in the deck. It keeps appearing in different places, whether it be his mouth or other places. Then at the end, it appears in his wallet. And he never reached in his pocket. How's that even possible, right?
I was right there.
So that is the definition of sleight of hand. That's sleight of hand magic, right? So you have sleight of hand magic. You have, there's some crossover into illusionary stuff, which is also like the billiard balls.
Would the rings be
the rings?
Illusion?
It's an illusion, but it's all sleight of hand.
Yeah. So
it's all skill, Now mentalism, which is a big part of my show, right? The crazy stuff, right? This is intentionally for the analytical person, right? Because it stumps them. They're like, how in the world? So that's a combination of, I say, a little sleight of hand, mm-hmm. but more method, right? Method of gaining information without there being no tell sign of how that's possible.
Do you pick people beforehand for the mentalism?
No.
Okay, so that is genuinely random. You're not marketing.
I'm a real psychic. No,
because I thought about it and I was like, here's why that one blew me away more than anything is my friend that you picked is one of the smartest human beings on the planet.
Right.
And I was like, if he gets her, I'm leaving. I can't stay here.
I can't handle it anymore.
And for people listening, long story short, he asked her to pick a random state. This was deep into the tricks. And she picked Idaho. And at the end of the trick, he had an Idaho quarter. I'm kind of butchering it, but it was...
No, right. Well, let's not give the whole routine away just because I want people to come to the Atlanta Magic Theater.
That's a good point. Come to it. So I'll shut my mouth. But
No. But the idea is you have an impossible conclusion.
Beyond impossible.
Where there is no explanation.
It was like 1 in 6 million. You had the odds.
It's ridiculous. It's in the millions.
Impossible.
It's literally impossible.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I make the joke, I'm like, but I do it at every single show, right? But so you have this impossible moment. And that's why there's 3 parts to the show, right? You have the classic, more comedically driven first part, which does a couple of things. First of all, it allows people to see I'm not taking myself that seriously. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm getting locked up, chains and shackles, Houdini escape. I have, the fun stuff with the cards matching, all these different routines. And so that kind of warms up the audience. Like, hey, he's a little self-deprecating. He doesn't take himself too seriously. Very magical though. Like the rope routine, the money. It's like watching magic, right? So now people are relaxed. They're laughing. They're having a good time with me. Now you go to mentalism. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, that's why I can do a little disclaimer because I know how strong those effects are. I talk about how I'm the only, real psychic in the world, right? And so there's all those different routines. So that is mentalism. That is its own kind of magic. Mm-hmm. Now, the guys who do straight mentalism, like only, there are mentalist shows. Mm-hmm. And they get all like high and mighty about how they are a mentalist.
Yeah.
I am not a magician. And like, whatever, dude, it's magic.
Yeah.
It's all magic, right? I even had a girl come up after the show this last weekend. And even though I said jokingly how I'm the only one, she's like, oh, you really are like the only, you know? And I'm like, first of all, it's a trick. Okay. And her husband's with her. He's like, honey, I told you, you know, but it's so convincing you might think otherwise.
Yeah.
And then the last part of the show is, again, classical based. So it's routines that you don't see very often anymore, like the rings, the billiard balls, you know, the coins, you know, things like that. But it's done in a way where it's beyond the trick, right? It's elevated into art. So you have the beautiful lighting, the beautiful music. There's no talking. It's, you know, except for the coins, but the rings and the balls, it's all beautifully choreographed, lighting cues, scene changes, and all that, you know, so it really creates a moment. And I mean, I get people all the time, literally all the time, that come up like affected by that. Like they come up like teary-eyed, like it was special. Like, thank you. You know, I witnessed something really unique and special tonight, which all leads me back to why I'm doing it for a living, right? You know, I want to create memories for people. Yeah. It's that anniversary. It's the birthday. They came to see me. The show's not about me. It's about them, you know, and creating that special moment for them.
I was going to wait for this question towards the end, but I think now's the perfect time. Out of everything, one of the things that stuck out to me the most was your happiness and excitement seeing other people's happiness and excitement. And there was two women specifically, the woman to the right of me and the woman straight to the right. One there with her husband, and it looked like a daughter of someone else. Mm-hmm. And you knew their names. And I mean, they made it more fun for me because they were just freaking out. What does that do for you when you see those people's reactions? Because watching you watch it just made my day too.
Well, I mean, that's why I'm doing it, right? You know, to unlock the inner child in a grown woman. It's great because they come in like, I don't know, you know, in their mind, I don't know if I'm going to have fun tonight or not. And then watch them go from that to like, you know, where they're like losing their mind, right?
Actually freaking out. Like,
yeah, like freaking out. Like, oh my God, you know.
Would it stop? Yeah.
Yeah. How does he do it? Or watching the young lady in the front who's a teenager who really didn't want to come at all, right? She's like, I want to stay home and play on my phone, you know, and watching that.
Yeah.
And watching, like, it was cute this last weekend, the girl in the front row, like literally like mouth agape, you know, just as the rings are melting apart, you know, because you're so close. I mean, that's why we keep it small. Yeah. That does make a difference. I mean,
was it small in San Francisco too?
No. So so identical size to the inch.
Really?
To the inch. Same measurements. When I saw the room before I built the theater there at the Embassy Suites, you know, Centennial Olympic Park, I walk in the room, I go, perfect. And he's like, what do you mean? I go, the room is 18 and a half feet wide. It's 26 and a half feet deep, and the ceilings are 11 and a half feet tall. He's like, well, what, did you go on our website? And I go, no, I can just see it. Because I did 3,000 shows in a same footprint. So I knew how it would lay out. So I knew that obviously, you know, don't try to recreate the wheel. If you had something that was, you know, that outranked the Golden Gate Bridge, you know, it's Atlanta. Why not here? You know, why would it not work there?
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for the tangent, breaking down the different categories of magic.
Yeah.
Back to the show in San Francisco. So let's break that down. Were you performing every night? Walk us through that. 7
shows a week, 2 shows Thursday, 2 shows Friday, 2 shows Saturday, 1 show Sunday. Nice. Yeah, it's a lot of performance.
It's a lot of performance. So did you have people on the team then that were helping?
Yeah, so we did full food and beverage.
Okay.
So what was great, the restaurant.
It's attached to the restaurant, yeah.
Well, we were thankfully detached enough. There was like a stairwell from the kitchen down the back door kind of thing. Nice. Stairwell so we didn't really get people from the restaurant that would come. We were this attraction, but they provided the food and beverage. So we had our own wait staff. I had my own hostess. I had a team of, we'll call it 5 that were part of that thing, but I still was front of house. I'd be greeting people, performing in the lounge, where they're having their cocktail, they're having their appetizer. I'm performing magic up close and personal, making cards appear in my wallet.
Yep.
And a whole bunch of other stuff. And then I would seat the audience every show and escort everyone in. And people are like, wow.
That was unique too.
Yeah, like that's different.
Yeah.
Like who does that? No one. I do because I care. And so
Yeah.
I want to another reason I do it, I don't want, you're pretty tall. I wouldn't want you to be in front of the lady who's 5'1".
Which was really considerate because that actually made a big impact too.
Yeah, it gives better sight lines to everybody. No one feels compromised. Because what happens too is they see me out in the lounge doing the close-up. Well, in their mind, they're thinking, okay, we're going to see more of that. So now when they walk in, they're like, how are we going to see the tricks on the table? Miracles on the table. And I again, good at reading people. I'll get people, I can see it on their face, like of deep concern. And I'll go, oh, hey, by the way, can you see the candle? Oh yeah, I can see the candle. Great, you'll see everything in this show. And I can see they go, oh wow, how did you know that I know. I always know.
Oh, partly because you perform miracles, and partly because you've done it for 3,000 times. So
over 5,000.
Over 5,000 now. Well, then, yeah,
yeah,
at that time.
I think actually, I think I was thinking about it. I think I'm up over. It's probably over 6,500 shows easily. Wow. More. It's got to be more. Yeah, I mean, hard to add them all up, but over the course of my career.
Yeah. Well, you lose track with all the events and all the performances and things like that.
It's a lot.
So, a few questions about that. How did you maintain stamina and excitement for each show? I mean, you're really working hard doing the same thing.
Oh, yeah, because it's not for me. Yeah. I mean, that's a simple answer, but that's what it boils down to. So the audience is new. And since my objective is to bring joy to the audience, it's a new audience every time.
I see.
So it's always fresh for me.
I see.
And I realize that by doing the repetition, I'm getting just that much better. One of my mentors said to me, do you think you can ever be perfect? And this is 30 years ago or whatever it was. And I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely. He's like, no. He goes, but it's a great goal, right? So you're always trying to get a little better. Maybe it's a subtle change in the music, subtle change in the lighting, wording things differently. Now, I don't have a canned show though, which is great too. I don't have a script that's like, this is my script. I have a strong outline. So I can go left, right, sideways, and
bullet points, not word for word.
Not word for word. Got a Rolodex that I draw from, but those are my lines.
Yeah.
So when you deliver them, it's authentic. But again, that's what keeps it fresh for me because again, it's always a new group.
Yeah. Before we leave San Francisco and we move to Atlanta.
Sure.
Break down for me the Magic Castle. When did that come about?
So that was 2005, 2006.
And if you could explain the Magic Castle, because when we were at our performance, no one reacted to that you said
but
we all
get
invited. Oh, immediately. I was like, finally I get the invite.
Magic Castle.
Yeah, so break it down for the listeners. And you said that
a lot of Hollywood personalities here.
I was just about to say, if you don't mind sharing, there was you shared at our show.
Neil Patrick Harris was the president of the Magic Castle. I don't know if he currently is or not, honestly. I don't live in California anymore, so I'm not as plugged in. But everywhere you go, it's like Natalie Portman's of the world walking around. It's just awesome.
Wasn't it one of the, I think, first weeks you were there, the whole cast of Pirates of the Caribbean was sitting front row?
Yeah, all the different personalities from Pirates of the Caribbean. You got, I had Marilyn Manson come to my show.
Casual.
Ghoul. I mean, the guy was like so creepy, pale skin. He looked just like his posters, But yeah, it was just a novel experience. Because again, you feel like you're going back in time.
Yeah.
You feel like you're back in the vaudeville almost, right? Mm-hmm. It's Hollywood, right? You're gonna get people that are very quirky, beautiful gothic velvet jackets, and just it's over the top.
I was about to say it's Hollywood.
It's Hollywood at its best.
Yeah, and it's required very fine clothing and
no photography allowed, no autographs allowed. They'll kick you right out if you use any of that stuff.
It is. It's a lost art, and I appreciate it.
One of my favorite moments at the Magic Castle, this was great. So I had a guy who was, I think he was traveling on business. He somehow was able to get into the Magic Castle. Never been to a magic show. And now this is my close-up show. at the Magic Castle. So there's like 18 people per show.
Yeah.
He's right there. He's like inches away from me. He was so mind blown. I mean, it was just great. I mean, the whole show. I mean, he just doesn't know what to say. So after the show, I see him illegally using his cell phone in the Magic Castle. He's talking to clearly what seemed to be his wife. And he's like, oh, you don't understand. He did this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And I'm like creeping up. And now I'm standing right in front of him. And he looks up, he's like, oh my God, he just appeared in front of me, and so he's losing his mind. And I go, hey, I want you to tell your wife to think of any card right now. And he goes, honey, think of any card. I go, tell her not to tell you. He goes, don't tell me. He goes, what next? I go, I want you to tell her she's thinking of the Queen of Hearts. Honey, he said you're thinking of the Queen of Hearts. Got it right. Miracle. So, it was hilarious. And, but there's so many of those moments here.
Yeah.
I mean, I had one moment too. I threw a card. I do a boomerang card where you spin it and it flies away and it comes back to you. And it just got lucky because there was an updraft. And so what happened is instead of coming at an angle, it pushed the card up slightly and it literally helicoptered in. It was like slow motion. It was like, and I just like caught it right here. And what was your card? Bam. It was just, and it was great as I can't see your show again that night. Oh. So I had this magician go, dude, man, that was freaking amazing. Do you do that at every show? I'm like, absolutely. Of course. Of course. And you hear every time I talk about magic, you can see the joy coming out of me, right?
Yeah.
Because, I get to make people feel like little children. It's great.
Yeah. It's special, man. Wow. Well, going back to San Francisco.
Yeah.
Before we get in, dive into the move, what's a highlight? Like, obviously, you did thousands of shows, and I'm sure there's many. But what are some memories that stick out to you? Like, man, this will stick with me forever from the San Fran shows.
Honestly, man, it's a blur. It was so many shows.
Yeah,
because they're all special. Remember, like what keeps me going? Every show's special.
It's unique, yeah.
I think as far as routine development, my favorite thing that I did in San Francisco by far, I mean, I had one of those aha moments. I go, I bet I can make this work. Is I realized you have what's called like the flashbulb effect, right? Flashbulb, you're blinded. Mm-hmm. You can't see you can't readjust for about 2 or 3 seconds. So I go, how could I make myself appear in the show, right? The beginning of the show. And I go, I bet if I use this kind of principle, it would work. Because I'm a lighting designer and all this stuff too, right? So first of all, I got to get a way to get on stage. Well, there's no backstage. It was to the wall. So I bet I could see if we could make a door. So I had them cut through the wall and make this little elf door. It was like half the size of a normal door because they had these reinforcements going through the walls for earthquakes. Yeah. So they were able to do that. And then I went in there and then I had a friend watch and I would watch. And I would time myself. Like, how long does it take my eyes to readjust? So I do a hot center spot to total blackout. What's in the basement? So you can get basically really close to full blackout. Mm-hmm. So I would do this. And so what would happen is at the beginning of the show, I'd seat everyone. And then I would run around to my little elf door. And I'd listen to the introduction. And I'd carefully crawl in the room. And we're talking like this. I'm behind the curtain. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here he is. Please bring your hands together for Master Magician Peter Morrison. And there's a hot spotlight on. Blackout. I would get on stage. I would have a cane and a top hat and do a freeze pose. And now the light slowly comes on and it's literally like I came out of nowhere. Wow. It was the coolest opening. I wish I could do it where I am now. I can't because it's a hotel. I can't cut a hole in the wall. But I'll never forget it because it was such a magical way to start the show. So cool.
I bet people loved it.
Loved it. Yeah, total surprise.
And you just said you were just seating them. So
yeah, seat the last person. I'm out of the room. I also had a full laser star field playing. Very magical looking.
Yeah.
So something I might introduce again. I mean, it was so cool. You had this mystical music playing and It was awesome.
Wow. So how many years in San Francisco?
So 2010 to 2016, so 6 years. Yep.
And over 3,000 shows.
Yep.
What sparked the change?
So a couple of things. Number one, I kind of saw the writing on the wall for San Francisco. Oracle World was leaving. I saw that San Francisco is very, very poorly managed. I mean, you've got homeless lists like you've never seen, like really, unless you've been there, beyond your conception. I actually just talked to the guy on the way up here who I sold the theater to. I go, what's it like now?
Yeah.
He goes, it is literally a ghost town. San Francisco is empty. It's disgusting. I mean, it's like dirty needles and bad news, right? There's no law. It's terrible, right? So I saw it kind of coming. It was already starting to get bad. I felt my life was in danger, with the commuting. I took the train in. And then also, more importantly, I was looking at the school system where we were. We're in the nicest area. I mean, we were in the best spot. And honestly, I was just seeing a lack of morality in the school system. My daughter's coming home. She's 11. Young children talking about, already getting involved with sexual acts and things like that. And I'm like, you know what? I don't know. What can I do? I can't quit.
Yeah.
I got to grind it out, making a killing. Wife stays at home with the kids. So I said, what have I not done? And I said, I haven't really done an honest prayer about this. So I hit my knees and I said, God, if it's meant to be, I want you to show me a sign and make it infinitely clear. Okay, this is in the morning, like on a Thursday. At that show that night, a guy came to my show from Georgia. And I said, yeah, my wife and I, we love the South. We've kind of discussed like in retirement, wouldn't it be that a nice place to move to? That's all I said. And at midnight, I got an instant message from the guy. And he said, hey, came to your show tonight. I don't know if you remember me, but I loved your show. Would you consider relocating it to Atlanta, Georgia? Same day as the prayer. Clear as it gets. Divinely inspired, no doubt in my mind. Went home, told my wife. She was all excited. And 1 week later, we were in Atlanta doing due diligence.
Wow. What did he do?
So they were property owners. They owned the management. And so they were my gateway coming here. Mm-hmm. And then I was with them for about a year and a half. And I realized that, the show was big. I mean, it was like 125 people. Mm-hmm. But there's something very special about that smaller size. So I decided to, open my mind again to change. I kind of started building my brand and was able to transition that show from that location in the old Fourth Ward to its current location, which is in the Embassy Suites, Centennial Olympic Park, which is the same size room as San Francisco. So it allows me to create that intimate nature.
Yeah. And how did the relationship with the hotel come about? I thought that was very interesting.
So I'm always been marketing, right?
Yeah.
But I'm like old school, man. I'm like the guy out shaking your hand. So I joined the Convention Bureau and different associations.
Yeah.
So it was a big mixer at Mercedes-Benz before it opened. And there was a fellow there who I recognized, but I didn't remember what he did. And we started talking. Now, I don't believe in coincidence. I wasn't going to go to that meeting. I was tired that day. And something told me, you need to go to this meeting. So I go there, 550 people. We connect randomly. And I go, oh, Dale, so good to see you, And, he'd been to my show a couple times. That's all I knew about him. He goes, oh, man, how's the show going? I love your show, man. You're the ultimate showman. He's all excited. Dale had a bit of a theater background. Still don't know what he does at this moment. And I go, well, yeah, I was kind of thinking it'd be kind of neat maybe to look in and bring it to a hotel or something. He's like, do you know what I do? He's like, I'm the head of group sales for Legacy Ventures. And Legacy owns several hotels in Atlanta. He goes, you know what? I will find you a space. I would love the idea. This would be fantastic. Oh my gosh, it'd be great for us, great for you. And so we started looking around at some of these rooms, and they're all bigger. And he's like, oh, it'd be great. You can have 100 people. And I go, yeah, I would like to find something smaller, maybe more intimate. And he said the magic words, I've got this room that we never use. Maybe we could work something out, because finding a space in a hotel would be very cost prohibitive.
Yeah.
There's no way you can do it. It's a 1 in a million. Well, I found the 1 in a million.
Yeah.
Same size room. Guy happened to come to the show. So we kind of formed a game plan and we upwards sold it to management. Then the board of directors of Legacy. And it turned out several of the people had been in my show. They all loved it. And they're like, oh, that guy? Oh, absolutely.
At the old Fourth Ward.
Yeah. They're like, oh, we love that show. We should definitely, that open-minded. They're like, not everyone would be open-minded about bringing some random guy. Well, I wasn't a stranger.
Yeah.
But they'd been to my show. And then I had the reputation already because in that 2 years I started the show, I became the #1 rated attraction on TripAdvisor in Atlanta.
Yep.
And I have, I think currently a cumulative, 700 plus reviews and an average score of 4.99999. It's like, I'm very grateful. They're all glowing reviews.
Yeah. How did it feel to change from, obviously, you're dealing with kind of the safety issues and just the city changing, but you were uprooting something that you had worked tirelessly to do.
Tirelessly, yeah.
I mean, talk to me about, was there fear? Was there anxiety? What were the challenges that you faced?
Yeah, so for me, my entire life is God-centered, and that takes all the fear away for me. That's just a fact. Because I was like, prayer was answered, moved to Georgia.
Yeah.
So what is God's plan for me? I don't know what God's plan is for me. I don't know what God's plan is for me right now. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Because I don't have to know. I mean, that's how I think. I mean, I really feel that way. So when I transitioned from the other venue to the theater downtown, I was like, great. No worry. Moving to Georgia, I wasn't concerned about being successful or not. Prayer was answered.
Yeah.
So whatever is coming is going to be amazing. And as it's turned out, it's been the best thing I ever did for my family.
How come?
Well, I just told you my off camera, but told you my daughter just got back from doing her first mission trip to Zambia, Africa. Mm-hmm. She's going to be a religious studies major in college starting this week. She wants to be involved in the church in some capacity. She's never drank, never smoked, never had a boyfriend yet, actually. Has a moral compass way beyond what I'll ever have. My son's the same way. Those things would not have been fostered in the environment we were in. We were living in what I call the me society of California. It's all about, I did it, me, me, me.
Yeah.
And in Georgia, I live on the south side. It's kind of like the Bible Belt. I see real gratitude from people.
Yeah.
And I see them giving credit where credit's due. They don't take credit, say, oh, I'm very grateful that God gave me the gifts I have. I'm very grateful that God worked this out for me in my relationship. God got me the job. It's just, for me, it's such an easier way to live.
Yeah.
Because if the weight's on my shoulders, that's a lot of pressure. But I don't feel that way because I don't feel that I have to carry the burden. I honestly just feel that way. Wasn't always that way, right? Early in my life was not that way at all.
Yeah.
Early in my life, I got to prove myself. I got to get through it. I got to do all this stuff. It's all on me. I'm going to be excellent. Take no prisoners, And then it's been a progressively growing thing for me. And being in the South has helped me. My closest friends are very strong faith people.
Yeah.
Most of which are older than me. And I look at them as spiritual mentors.
Yeah.
And they give me guidance and discernment and things that I feel that are very, inspired.
Yeah. You've mentioned your family quite a bit, and it seems like your wife has been very supportive over the years. Which
Extremely supportive.
Key, really key. If anyone, man or woman, trying to start a business, it's key that their partner and spouse is aligned with them.
Oh, yeah.
What about your kids too? Because I know kids can be mean to one another, and I can imagine if
they've never fought once.
No. Well, I was going to say,
I have perfect family.
What was it like for your children having their father being a master magician growing up? Have they ever talked to you about that?
So hilarious, right? One would think that if your father is a magician, you'd be asked, like, show me a trick, Dad, right? It'd be awesome.
Or do they just not care?
Totally don't care. Yeah. Yeah. But at the same time, proud of me.
Yeah, that's good.
Like, I love it. My story, my daughter told me a story recently, just pretty recently, like within the last month or two. So we move here, and this jerk at her school, he's like, hey, you should tell your dad, she should come perform at my birthday party or whatever. And my daughter, like without even skipping a beat, goes, oh, you can't afford him.
Oh,
He's like, what do you mean? What do you mean I can't afford him? He goes, he charges X. And he's like,
yeah.
Shut up.
I know my dad's for real.
So I know that she's proud of me.
Yeah,
she also, well, she's funny. She's just, I love it. She's so cute. She loves like this kind of stuff.
yeah.
But she's like me, man. Like I said, I don't know what God has in store for me. I really don't. It's exciting.
Yeah.
She recently goes, Dad, you need to be a TV personality.
Mm.
You need to have your own talk show. Do something like that. Something other than just magic. Something bigger than just magic.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's going to happen or not. I'm perfectly happy with what I'm doing now, but I'm open to anything,
Yeah.
And if it's presented to me, I'll know if it feels right because I have amazing discernment for that stuff.
Yeah.
I tend to make good decisions now because of that.
Yeah.
Financial and otherwise.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit kind of more behind the scenes of the business side of things. What would you say are some misconceptions people might have about being a full-time magician, or what really goes on behind the scenes to bring this to life as a paying career?
Well, there are no. Well, I really don't think there are any misconceptions, other than the fact that people don't necessarily understand that magic performance is one of the highest paying forms of entertainment.
Mm.
I mean, it's amazing. Like a kid's birthday party magician, they make like $250 an hour.
Oh, wow.
Or more, right? So it's a very niche market. So I think that's one of the greatest misconceptions. And it happens too. It translates when you get a call. Now, when I get a call, people know, okay, he's got his own show. He's a headliner. They're not expecting me to be like, it's $250,
Yeah.
When I come in multiple thousands, they're like, okay, well, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, if you didn't do that, it wouldn't make sense. They'd be like, well, maybe I misjudged him,
I shouldn't hire you. Yeah.
Right. So I think that's the biggest thing, really, as far as any kind of misconception. But as far as a career, I mean, it's just something people don't really have a lot of point of reference of,
Mm-hmm.
Very few guys are like me. I mean, there's not a lot of guys who have their own show.
Would you say it's more corporate, like event by event based?
Mostly kids.
Okay.
And then there's the corporate guys. And then there's some that do both. And most do both. A lot of do both. But I mean, very, very few that have their own theater and their own show. And because you got to have all the business side of it. You have to know how to do marketing. You have to know how to do all the customer service, So the guys that don't have those skills generally work through agents.
Yeah.
And then the agents, I've never had an agent. I've never wanted an agent. Because if you work for an agent, if they go out of business, you're out of business.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So, kind of jump back into it. Okay. So, Peter, one of the things that I'm also curious about, because, if you can't tell by now, I admire you a lot and I respect you.
Thank you.
And the performance that you've put on, but you are polished and you've practiced for decades. You've put well in over the 10,000 hours.
Well over the 10,000 hours.
Well over. What about the challenges that you face? So I can think back in my life a couple times where I've bombed on stage with speaking or things like that. So tell me about the challenges. Have you bombed on stage? Hecklers, like the dark side of the performance world.
Yeah. So here's the difference. So amateur, professional. Amateur, when they make a mistake. Professional, you never know when they make a mistake. Because you don't pause. You don't skip a beat. You act like it was meant to happen.
Yeah.
Or you just keep moving straight along, right? So you just ignore it.
Yeah.
I mean, unless it's so glaring. I mean, it just doesn't really happen. You have to have, in magic, you have to have an out. Right? You do need to think through this beforehand. Like, what if this happened?
Yeah.
What would I do then? If you don't do that, you're in trouble. Yeah, because you're like, So yeah, you have to have an out in your mind, or, I'll know enough early and into an effect that, you're just going to keep moving forward. They never seen your show, right? So they don't even know what to expect.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so they don't know. This last weekend, actually, I dropped one of the balls by accident. It dropped, it hit the backdrop and went out into the audience. And then I go like, had a guy throw it back to me. They all thought it was rehearsed. Like it was like, oh, this is how he does it every show. I told the guy I'd had a trip to the dermatologist this week. So I had a little sore thing on my hand. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of went, ow, and dropped it. He goes, really? I go, yeah. And he goes, oh, I just thought it was part of the act. Because again, I never paused.
Yeah.
I never let him see me sweat. But that is the difference between an amateur or novice versus a professional.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be able to see. No one's perfect. I'm going to make mistakes, right? It's going to happen. I mean, one in 1,000 shows or whatever it is, something's not going to go perfect, but you would never know.
Yeah.
At least that's the goal.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. What about difficult audience members? Have you had hecklers before? People that are just like clearly there to make it.
They're messing with the wrong guy.
Yeah.
No, I'm good on my feet. I shut them down, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. In a very polite way.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite lines that I stole from one of my mentors, I love this. So if someone were to lie to you about a result, and again, I don't really do any card magic in the show, but let's just say as an example so the viewer understands, they pick the 7 of hearts and you go in and your card was the ace of spades. And they go, no. And they have a straight face and when like, you're wrong. I love this line. It's so great. It's like, hey, sir, you forgot. You can go to hell for lying. Because there's no comeback from that.
Yeah.
And then of course, everyone in the audience is on your team now. And they're like, hey, yeah. Don't pick on the magician, right?
Yeah.
But also the biggest part of it is the way I do the show, I'm not doing it trying to trick you. I'm trying to entertain you. So if I came across and I said, hey, man, let me show you what an idiot you are. I'm going to fool you badly and do these crazy tricks. And, you're going to feel like a fool. Then, of course, it's like game on, Magic Boy, right? They're going to be all about trying to figure it out and heckling. But it just doesn't happen. I mean, it just doesn't happen. I mean, I've had like a handful of drunks come. I politely ask them to leave, if they're disruptive.
Yeah.
If they're disruptive. But again, there's like 5 times that's ever happened. I've never had anyone be an obnoxious heckler though. Because again, I mean, I'm just good at diffusing it. Yeah. I don't engage, diffuse. You're going to get the guy who's the big loudmouth who wants to be the center of attention. Figure out a way to politely shut him down.
Yeah. But what you just said too, you're not there to trick, you're there to entertain. That speaks volumes because you're not against the audience.
Oh, no.
With the audience.
100%. Yeah.
And it's about them, not you.
I'm sharing in that laughter. I'm sharing in that moment. I mean, you saw me, I'm on stage like a kid, right? I'm like, it's all very authentic. I'm not like, putting on a fake smile and a fake laugh. And it's like, I'm laughing with you.
You absolutely are. And speaking of that kid, you always talked about helping bring the inner kid out of everybody else.
Yeah, inner child, yeah.
Or inner child out of everybody else. Does performing do that for you too? And if not, what brings out your inner child?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it does to some degree. For me, my inner child, I don't know what it'd be. Probably more just moments of wonder, nature, music, things like that.
Yeah.
But definitely sharing in their release of the inner child kind of reminds me, right? Like, what was it like? I mean, the only problem is I'm a magician, right? So seeing magic, pretty hard to give me that feeling.
That's fair. That's fair.
Because I'm not sitting there trying to figure it out. I am purely going, if I go to magic shows, which isn't very often, but I do occasionally, purely to be entertained. That's why like Chris Angel's show in Vegas, I was underwhelmed.
Yeah.
So I left actually. I mean, it was not a good show, but Lance Burton's show in Las Vegas. Did you see it?
I didn't see it, but I followed him as a kid.
I mean, I went like 7 times. And I actually went on my bachelor party. And now that show, I felt like a little kid.
Yeah.
I mean, it was ridiculous.
He's incredible.
Oh, the best it's ever been. I mean, watching it was technically perfect. You liked him immediately. He was charming.
He was.
And the nicest person. I actually met him once in person in California. Actually, he flew out for one of the founding members of our group was the former master magician. His name was Lee Grable. Lee passed on the mantle. There's like a very special ceremony in magic where there is truly a master magician.
Mm-hmm.
Lance Burton is that person.
Yeah.
So, and no one else has been chosen yet.
Wow. Well, he deserves it. And I had his DVD. It was really his VHS tapes as a kid.
Amazing.
So I would watch
absolutely amazing. But the whole time I was at the show, I was like,
yeah,
yeah.
It's special. It's special to be a part of it. Another thing that I really want to talk about is routines and practice.
Yep.
And I think you said at our performance that you practiced the ring routine for 5 years before you performed.
Way more than that.
Way more than that.
15.
It looks like, and by the way, in my research for you, AKA stalking, I watched some fans posted YouTube videos of you doing it. Peter, I watched that in so much detail, frame by frame.
Nothing.
It looks like the rings just melt.
That's right.
It looks like the rings melt. So,
because they actually do.
They do. Well, it's a miracle, not magic.
That's right.
What goes into the intensity of training? Because I don't think most people understand how much work you put in.
So it depends on the routine. So I've got this skill set, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've done the 10,000 hours. Mm-hmm. I've got the skills. So learning new stuff is a lot easier.
That's a good point.
Infinitely easier. It's like playing guitar. I play guitar every day. I play an hour to 2 hours every day. Well, pick up a new song. It's like, give me the chords. As long as I know the song, I'm down within a couple hours. Now it's going to keep getting better. So I don't really practice anymore, honestly. I mean, the performance in itself is practice. Mm. But what I do is I think about it a lot. So I'll think about, those moments that happened in that weekend performance. Maybe a line that was used that got a great reaction. Maybe it was, a lot of it's very organic. Like I go, I did do that slightly differently and it seemed to work better. Mental note, remember that. I actually don't really even need to write it down. I just have a good memory. So I just remember these things. That next week I might go a little earlier. Maybe I'm like, that volume was slightly louder than I wanted. That lighting cue was 2 seconds later. I'll adjust the scene. So it's always like tweaking. Mm-hmm. And then I have a Rolodex of all these other routines that I've done. So I've got stuff kind of on the back burner. Now, for a new show, like new trick development, mm-hmm. That might be a 6-month process. So I would practice it every day. I can't give a number on how long, but
Ever in front of people or by yourself typically?
No, by yourself. So you'd be working on the mechanics of the routine. So now you might consider introducing it in your show. And then now your baby's growing and then it's going to evolve. And then I would say it probably takes a year of doing that routine to really get it tight. Mm. It could take a year. It could take more. The billiard balls keep getting better and better. The rings keep getting better and better. Yeah. I had a friend of mine say to me, a fellow who I sold the theater to, he goes, wow, man, I didn't really think, like that billiard ball thing could get much better. He goes, it's like amazing. It's like the contrast from 2 years ago to today, it just keeps getting a little better. My wife, it's her favorite one. She cries every time I do it. She's like, because she knows now that one took like 8 years of practice to learn. But she knows the dedication, the blood, sweat, and tears to get to that level. Just to be able to do it, now it's become a thing of beauty. Now it's like it's a piece of art.
Is it with 4 or 5?
5.
5, yeah.
Yeah, and they're 2 inches in diameter, so I'm like maxed out.
Well, that's, again, as I bragged about you to people, it was the hand dexterity and the fingers too. I was like, guys, you don't understand. You don't understand what he did with this. And when I did magic as a kid, I couldn't wait to get older because my hands were so small. I was a really tiny kid, so I struggled with card tricks, coin tricks.
I was a little kid with big hands. No, I'm kidding.
So you had a little bit of an edge. That was your edge in life.
I don't have big hands at all. Oh, come on. No, your hands are way bigger than mine.
All right. I got nothing to say.
Way bigger than mine.
That's even more
Mine
impressive.
are more powerful. Yeah. Because of all the...
They are too. When I shook your hand too, I was like, okay, this guy's got the.
Well, that's just in my training from my father, like, firm handshake.
You got to.
Of course, eye contact.
I don't know if this is a fair question, but I wouldn't even say favorite routine or miracle that you've done. But what's one where you were either proud of yourself or you impressed yourself, where you're like, man.
Well, again, because I don't think like that, honestly.
Okay.
I don't. I mean, I'm not like that.
Or
I mean,
happy. You were happy.
Well, that'd be a better phrase. I was pleased with the end result, right? No, I mean, the billiard balls is definitely one of them. The rings, certainly. The dream vacation, that routine, the dream vacation, that's some black magic right there, man. I mean,
It is,
yeah.
man. Well, I believe you have scared some people.
Yeah,
with that especially.
That is a okay. I'm a genius with that one. I mean, that was like the best.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Pat yourself on the back.
There it is. That was something I thought about how to do. How could I do this forever?
Yeah.
And the guy who owned the restaurant in San Francisco, I remember I ran it by him. I said, "Hey, well, I got this new thing I want to show you. Tell me what you think." And he's watching, and it was just him, right? So I do all 4 things with him, and I'm telling him what he's thinking and blah, 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 and I write down my predictions. And he looks at me like dead serious. He goes like, "Peter, listen to me very carefully, man." And by the way, the accent's good. I mean, he's from Palestine, so he had this very thick accent, He's like, "You don't want this in your show, man. People are going to freak out, And I'm like, perfect. It's in the show tonight. Yeah. Because it's a killer. There is no explanation. Matter of fact, a friend of mine, he's the guy who built the tables for my show. Those are like hand-built, custom.
Nice.
Not that they do anything other than hold things. They're not like magical looking. Mm-hmm. He came to the show. I told him about the routine. I told him how it worked. This is what I do. He watched the routine. He goes, "I get nothing." He goes, "How's that even possible?" And then what you really do is good mentalism. There's a lot of improv going on. So you're reading people real time, knowing when you're getting hits on information, and so you're able to embellish in a way that's very natural and organic, where they're like, he literally did read my mind.
You say that, Peter, but that still doesn't make any sense.
I know.
Because I was there.
I know.
And it
I know.
And like I said, my friend Rada, she's an attorney.
Yeah.
If there's anybody I wouldn't want to go up against, it's her.
Sure, of course. All attorneys are like that.
And you got it. And
leveled her.
Leveled her.
Yeah.
Leveled her. That was the highlight.
That is fun for me.
Yeah. And
because listen, attorneys, they do go to magic shows to try to figure it out because it's to win.
Yeah.
It's a battle of wit.
No,
he's not going to fool me, and then you get him and then you're like, forget it.
Yeah. That's why when you got out, I was like, oh, wow, I'm really blown away. You had me with the first card trick. You had me with everything. It was great.
I had you at hello.
Yeah, you had me at hello. You had me at hello. A few more fun questions for you before we wrap up.
Yeah.
If you could perform for any historical figure in history.
I've already done it.
You've already You're a time traveler.
Well, would you like to hear a great story about that?
Please.
So I can't tell you where it was because it's like a secret society place. But I'm performing Rockefeller, right? So it's Rockefeller and his friends. And that was really cool.
Yeah.
That was because the history, right? I didn't even know who he was when I met him. I had him sign the card.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, Rockefeller, But I don't really think, I don't know if there would be a particular person. I also performed for Malcolm McDowell. And he slapped me across the face. He was so blown away, and that was a great moment. But because I remember he walks up, these guys are like, "Hey, Malcolm, you got to come here. You got to meet this guy. He's amazing." And I go, "Malcolm McDowell, I had a dream about you last night." I go, "Actually, Malcolm, it wasn't a dream. It was a nightmare." And that's when he slapped me across the face. Because I just thought about his kind of sinister characters like Clockwork Orange and all that stuff. And it was great. And then I did this card routine, and he's so intense, and he's looking at me. He's like, "Brilliant, bloody brilliant." Yeah. So can't think about anyone I would like to. Cause I've kind of I really have had some notable moments in my career where I've met some really fascinating people. It was just fun, because they're just people.
Yeah.
They're just people.
Not even present day, even in history, someone that's not alive right now. Anyone that you're like, if I could.
No, there's really not.
No, you've had.
I mean, honestly, it's because I just don't think, I guess I don't care that much. I mean, I don't know, going back to performing for Beethoven or something,
Yeah.
No, it just doesn't matter. To me.
What I'm seeing is you care about the present moment. Like every performance genuinely is a new performance.
It is.
You love it for that moment of what it is. You put it in your memory bank and you use it for motivation for the future.
Absolutely. 100%. You got it right.
No, I'm just seeing this because I like to, if you can't tell by now, I like to dissect people and understand how they work and why they work. And
Yeah.
you
You're
got to
great.
that
You're a
point.
great interviewer.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So let's talk about kind of what's coming up in the future. And you've had this show in Atlanta for 7 years.
We're in our 7th year. Yeah.
Seventh
It's amazing
year.
how time flies by when you're having fun.
Yeah. What are you looking forward to? Even though the unknown is there anything on the horizon where you're like, I'd like to do this. I'd like to
I do have something in mind.
accomplish this.
I do have something in mind. So, I don't know if Atlanta is the end all because I've always like San Francisco really was my own place. Yeah. I miss that, right? It was I created, you walk down the candlelit stairwell. It was an experience. You know, the show in Atlanta, it's an experience too in its own way, but doesn't have all the elements. So I like the idea of getting out of the big city and bring it to a destination city, but smaller place like, North Georgia, somewhere, something like that. I have something exactly in mind. I don't want to give the cat out of the bag yet though, but I have something in mind.
Yeah.
Cause I like to have my own like building,
Yeah.
my own four wall.
Yeah.
And I know it would work because I've already done it like multiple times. So I have no doubt it would be successful. And that would really allow me to, again, enhance the experience even more, by having all those little moments checked off from how your initial, because you're in a hotel, you got mixed audience.
Can't control everything. Yeah.
You can't control everything. You can never control anything anyway, but at least you can eliminate some things,
Yeah.
that are challenges.
What advice would you give to anyone listening that's had interest in magic and wants to get started, but understandably feels anxious or nervous or like, I just don't want to fail. I don't know how to.
Well,
try.
your motivation has to be correct. First of all, one of my mentors asked me, he goes, why did you quit your day job? I said, because I had to. He got it. He goes, that's the only right answer. Like if there's no other option, like if you I'm so I have to do this. So whether you're a writer, musician, anything in the arts, right? Mm-hmm. Actually anything in life in general. I mean, if you're a photographer and you love photography and your job is like customer service at Amazon, you have a choice, right? I can keep the job at Amazon, safe route, or I can say, I'm going to follow my passion. And if you follow your passion, you're willing to put in the time.
Yeah.
And people say, oh yeah, you're lucky. It's not like you ever worked a day in your life. Well, that's not true, right? Because you got to run a business. Right. So there is the business side. The performance, if I could just perform only, that's it. I showed up and the audiences was there and I had no promotion to do and blah, blah, blah. It would be pretty close to that. It'd still be work because it is physically exhausting, mentally exhausting to give 100% of yourself naturally. And then on the outside of that, you're mentally drained afterwards because you have given 100% of yourself. But yeah, making sure the motivation is correct, so if it's because you feel like, if you think it's to be cool and fun, bad idea. If you think like, for the reasons that were mentioned in this interview, I like the idea of creating memories for people. I want to bring joy to people. Go forth, bring it forward. And also being honest with yourself too. Do you have the necessary elements to do that? You could be the master skill guy. I mean, you could be so good. You could be better than anyone on the planet. And you would never be successful at magic unless you had the entertainment side of it.
Yeah.
Entertainment, number one. Skill, I would say is up there. Maybe trick selections, because you got to also pick things that make sense. Mm-hmm. As you said, my show is seamless. It's smooth. There's no like pause and now for my next, it's just it just flows. So that takes time. I mean, you're not going to do that overnight. That takes doing hundreds and hundreds, now thousands and thousands of shows. And now there's that seamless transition because there's no dead time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would just say, if you feel like there's no other option for you, go for it. And if you feel there are other options, don't do it. keep it as a hobby and have fun with it, right? Be the life of the party, but not necessarily a career magician.
Yeah. Well said, Peter. Beautifully well said. And you answered my other question, kind of going into what should other creatives do and just artists in general. And I think you touched on that.
Yeah, and I think it translates to all of them.
Yeah.
Say it, musician, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Singer, dancer, whatever. And at some point, if you realize that, you know what, it just isn't going to work. You got to feed yourself, right? Well, if you're still going to stick that out, well, you do whatever it takes. When I early in my magic career, I didn't mention this earlier in the interview, but I hauled junk. During the day sometimes. Yeah. Did some physical manual labor. It was kind of funny because I'd be like in the dump truck. I'm on the dump truck on my way to the dump. Like, hi, good afternoon. This is Peter. How can I help you? And like you're calling for your corporate event, and it's like beep, beep. What does that sound? It's like, oh, it's nothing. There's someone in our front yard. Don't worry about it. But I just like, you do whatever you need to do. You got to feed your family. But at the end of the day, I had fortunate, good timing, perseverance, and very strong faith, and it carried me through it all.
It really did, Peter. And I want to thank you for being on here and being transparent, because you did a lot to get to where you are today. And I think you earned it. And I'm really grateful that I went to the show and that we've built a friendship out of this, and just all the advice and wisdom that you've shared. Because I know people listening to this are going to be inspired and say, okay, well, he did these 100 things to get to this point. I guess I can do it too. So for the listeners too, how can they see your show? Where can they go? Give them some information.
For the viewer at home. That's right. So Atlanta Magic Theater is the name of the show, and it makes it easy. AtlantaMagicTheater.com. And it's right downtown, right across the street from the World Congress Center, Centennial Olympic Park, inside the Embassy Suites Hotel. The tickets are all purchased through our website, and I recommend getting them in advance for the shows, and be prepared to have a great time.
You're going to have an amazing time. And Peter, thank you very much for coming again today. And to everybody listening and watching, get to the show 30 minutes to an hour early. You'll get to meet Peter, see some close-up magic. Yeah, definitely
don't miss the early part. I always am so sad when people show up late and they walk in, and all these people, like, we're already friends.
Truly.
And they're like, well, how does he know their name? How does he know what they do for a living? It's like, because we really, they came early.
He's a magician.
Yeah, right.
He just knew.
But they came early, and so we got to know each other, and they got to see some of my favorite stuff. I mean, that sleight of hand stuff, when you're like in your hand, it's like, whoa, like, how's that work?
That's probably my favorite kind.
Of course.
Because you see it and you still don't know what's going on.
That's right.
So again, everybody, Atlanta Magic Theater, get there, AtlantaMagicTheater.com. Get there a few minutes early, and I'm definitely going to come see the show again and bring my more friends and family. And to everybody out there listening and watching and supporting, we appreciate you so much. We've got at least one episode a month coming right now. We're putting a lot of hard work into the marketing and branding of this show to get the messaging out there, and we couldn't do it without you guys listening. So thank you very much, and we will see you next week on Find Your Edge. Take care.